give us a starting point on Dementia Mentors. Why did you start that? What was the idea behind it?
Basically, when somebody gets diagnosed, it doesn't matter what type of dementia it is, whether it's Alzheimer's or Lewy bodies, the doctor's like, okay, here's your Exelon patch or your Namenda, and I'll see you in 6 months. And they're sending these people out the door without any information. And basically, they just handed this person a terminal disease on it. And to just send them out the door like that is just unbelievable. So what do? They go home, they start Googling. All they see is the end stage. Nobody talks about living well with dementia during the beginning of it. David Kramer, which a lot of you guys might know, he's been a very big activist in Dementia Mentors for us, doing mentor training. So we got it set up that we're doing private mentor sessions. If you got FTD, we set you up with somebody that has FTD that's been 3-4 years in the disease. You can sit there privately through this program, Zoom, ask them any questions you want, talk about the symptoms, doing it. We just got a request last night that I'm setting up today for a guy up in Massachusetts that has FTD, and we're setting up a mentor session right now today for that on it. So I mean, you can sit there and actually talk to somebody that's in the same shoes as you, and it's gone. It's extremely proud of the program. It's been very successful on it. The other thing we're doing is virtual memory cafes. We're doing 4 a week now, where we have a social group. It's like a support group in a way. It's a memory cafe, but it's online through Zoom. We're doing 4 a week. We did one every Monday at 4 o'clock in the morning. I get up every Monday to host the one that starts at 9 o'clock in London. You take it. Yesterday, we had people from Wales, London, Australia, Indonesia. We were really crossing some time zones yesterday. All people with dementia, all different types of dementia. So we thought these meetings would last about an hour. The truth of the matter is, sometimes they're 2-3 hours because nobody wants to say goodbye. And they're all people talking about dementia. They don't have to talk about the disease. Half time they're talking about movies. Yesterday they were talking about NASCAR. I mean, the deal with the 500 and everything on it. It's really important to keep these people social. And we're doing this right from the comfort of their own home. So it's outstanding, really. And here's the thing. I've seen improvement in almost all of them.
Gary, the Memory Cafe is just sort of a virtual meeting place for anyone with these various forms of dementia.
Right. We have one person that hosts each meeting, each cafe, that doesn't have dementia. It's either me or I got another woman, Dolores from Pennsylvania, who helps out on dealing it. So we make sure we have somebody there, and we're there for tech support or anything. If they're trying to figure out something they're talking about, they can't figure the word, we Google it for them. We're sitting there multitasking for them just to keep the conversation going. We make sure if there's somebody in the background that's not really just listening and talking, we try to bring them into the conversation. But usually we don't have to. These guys are like this, bah, 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 bah. They're going on it. It's fantastic on the deal. So those meetings are, Teepa Snow even says, one thing I agree with her immensely about, because there's only 2 things that really slow down the progression of dementia. And that's exercise and socialism. So I told everybody on the group on the Wednesday cafe, we're all going to do calisthenics during the cafe. They're like, no way. We're not coming if you're going to make us exercise. I'm like, well, we're getting half of it done anyway.
So Gary, you have a lot of people in the room who do know you and know of your work, but also some new people who have no idea who you are. And I did not give you a very good introduction. Maybe you can tell us what got you interested in all this. Tell us a little bit about your dad and what got you going.
I took care of my dad for a little over 10 years. He passed away in 2009 from Alzheimer's. Me and him had a bookstore together. We started a business back in '91. A couple of years into the business, and I could see my dad just wasn't the same. Things were going downhill for him. He couldn't do math anymore and everything on it. But it took me about 2 years to get him diagnosed, but he finally got a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease on it. So after taking care of him for 10 years, I actually, even while he was still alive, actually, I started writing a weekly column for the Tampa Tribune, Hernando Today, some of the local papers up in this area, called Common Sense Caregiving. I wrote that column for 6.5 years. I've written, I got my 4th book on dementia coming out. It's going to be coming out in about 3 weeks, called The After Effects of Caregiving. And this is to talk about, I'm really happy and proud of this book on it, because it's something that we don't talk about enough, is what happens after they're gone. It's very difficult to find your identity again. What happened to me, after you spend 10 years, or even if it's 2 years taking care of one person, the one thing about caregiving, it's all about sacrifices. And we have to understand that. But when they're gone, you're going to find yourself in this void. So my goal with this book is to get people to read the book before their loved one's gone, so they know what's coming up. Because you think you're actually grieving, when the truth of the matter is you might be in grieving and depression for years to come. And the average caregiver, 50% of caregivers will go through about 2 to 3 years of clinical depression after their loved one's gone, and they don't even realize it. I've got people telling me, hey, it's been 3 years and I still don't know how to say goodbye. And until you're there in those shoes, you don't really understand it. It's a little different with the loss on it. So now my mother, who is 96, has developed vascular dementia. So I'm right back in the caregiving again. She's basically living in a world of delusion now. And basically she got her vascular dementia through her diabetes. Basically, her feet were swollen for years for the diabetes, couldn't get her shoes on. That's no circulation up to the brain, and it basically caused vascular dementia with her. I was very fortunate I didn't have them both at the same time. And they kind of staggered in length a little bit on that. It's one thing I always dreaded and was fearful of. But we're doing pretty well with her. I learned from my first experience. It's made this round a little bit easier for me. Same thing, we're back to keeping everything in the routine and everything, but she's really in a world of delusion. And it's but she's 96. I go, well, it has nothing to do with her age. It's the vascular dementia that's causing it. Because 3, 4 years ago, she was sharp as a whip. It's just basically her sugar. She's been moved from a diabetic 2 to a diabetic 1. We're micromanaging her sugar, and it's just too many years of dealing with the diabetes on it that's caused the vascular dementia. So when I'm out speaking, I'm very adamant about talking about all the dementias. We're not doing anybody a favor about just talking about Alzheimer's. I always call it the capital A. But we really got to talk about the Lewy bodies, the FTD, the vascular, all of it, all of the above, MCI. It's all one big picture on it, because even the diagnosis, if we're not talking about it, it's the people in their 50s that are getting so misunderstood.